Thank you for spending your time with us today. And without further ado, we have our keynote speaker, Ms. Martha Niño.
So I work for Adobe. I know I have a stage and I'm choosing to go over here because you're right here. I work for Adobe right down the street. We have 35,000 employees. I'm also a mama of 2. And up until about 5 years ago, that's who I was. And that moment I told you about speaking at Adobe changed my life, and it added a lot of other things to what I was doing. I developed a podcast, I started speaking a lot more, I wrote, and I also started the nonprofit. Now, that's the building, if you haven't seen it, right down the street. I actually give tours of Adobe at lunchtime, try to lose a little weight, so I walk around. There was a bunch of kids, they're right here actually. They were coming from Watsonville and Salinas where we picked strawberries and lettuce. And they were looking at the buildings that I was showing them, and I'm showing them the soda machines, and I'm showing them the gym, and I'm showing them the basketball court between the buildings. And one of the kids there, and I can't remember which one, and it's probably on purpose because it could be any kid, looks at me and said, "Yeah, this is all great, but somebody like me can't be at a place like that." And I said, he thought I was just a tour guide. And I said, "Well, I am you." And I heard that earlier. I was him. And I had never, ever told my story to anybody, but he's looking at me with watery eyes, and that is the day I became a storyteller. A few months later, Adobe's looking for stories of people who come from someplace different. And for the chance to be on a stage, Gloria Estefan was going to be there too, who's my idol. And I'm like, I always wanted to be on stage. I want to see Gloria Estefan. And all they needed was a 300-character little story. Just 300 characters of a little story. And I'm a marketer. So I said, okay, how am I going to get attention? And so I started my story with, I was smuggled into the country. That'll get your attention, right? And I did my little 300-character intro. And a couple months later, when they were picking their keynote speakers, they wanted to make sure it was real. They wanted to check the facts. And indeed, it was real. And so I come from, that's actually my grandma's house, a ranch in Zacatecas, Mexico, where there's no water and no electricity. My parents pick cotton for a living. And there's very rich people around us, but that was not us. That was not us. As a matter of fact, what kind of life would I have had if I would have stayed there? And that was a story that I told the executives at Adobe, because amongst all the most educated, wonderful people, there was also somebody like me. And I hadn't just been there for a year. I'd been in this industry over 25 years. I had been in sound, I had been in mobile, and I was in software. They didn't know that somebody like me can be at a place like that. And when I told you earlier that I posted that talk on LinkedIn, people started reaching out and started realizing that, well, maybe they can too. Maybe they can too. This story was not about me anymore. The writing process, the feeling was healing. The feeling was healing. And how do you write? How do you speak? And I learned all of that from a lot of other speakers and writers. And so that's actually a picture of my mother. I'm actually part Huichol, indigenous from Mexico. Not so long after this, my mom handed me to a stranger at the border of San Diego to pass as their daughter, because I couldn't make the trip with her because I would make too much noise and ruin the trip for everybody else. And hope that we'd reunite, and hope that we'd reunite. Imagine holding on to hope. Last week, my daughter woke up in the morning, and she knows that I do all of this stuff. You know, and she's a teenager, she's 18, and sometimes I don't think that she pays attention, and every time I do these things, she rolls her eyes, you know. She says, Mom, don't stop telling kids that they're going to be okay. I told you my foundation gives those books to kids as inspiration that they can possibly have a better life for free. For some, their first book. That has become my passion. Thank you, Carmen, for allowing me to say that here. I'm the tech pathway. There's so many of you that do so many other things. I'm going to write another book, more pathways. If anybody wants to fund it, I'm just kidding. So she woke up and says, Mom, don't stop talking, which to me meant, I'm a big boxing fan. Any boxing fans here? Yeah, I'm a big boxing fan. And so to me that meant, Mom, put on the gloves and fight with what you got. Fight with what I got. I got a mouth, I've got experience, and I've had people that help me, and I have opportunities like this. That's all I got. That's what I'm going to fight with. That's what I'm going to do. These kids need us, and although they're not telling us they need us, they're listening. Even my teenagers listening. So hope. We did reunite, and we did end up here in Fremont, California, not too far from here. My parents did any job that would come their way. Humble jobs, worked in restaurants. They poured cement, they babysat, they did, sewed clothes, whatever job they can find. That's what we're here to do. We're here to work. And so I started working at around 10 years old also. Before that, I'm translating at age 5. Any of you guys chief translating officers also for your parents and loved ones? I'm still doing it. And sometimes I translated things kind of funny, because medical terms like chicken pox is not really bok, right? I did that. So my parents had to hustle. They taught us to hustle. We talked about hustle earlier. We have hustle in us. We will figure it out. That's what we do. We're asked to do something, we step up. They hustled. They put on those shoes. I took them off my father's feet when he came from work, when they were hurting him. That's what we did. So around 14 years old, I told you we were hustlers, so I started working at a factory around here, back when it wasn't the Silicon Valley. And I worked in the back warehouse as a part-time worker after school, and I broke everything in that warehouse. I was really horrible at it. And so they asked me to come into the office. This wonderful woman with blonde hair and blue eyes and pearls that I admired, I thought I was getting in trouble because that's what happens when you go into the office. But there was donuts. Yum Yum. Who said something about Yum Yum? I don't know. So her name was Beth, and she was my first believer. And honestly, that was a life-changing, because I had never been in the office. Nobody in my family had ever been in the office aside from cleaning it. So she taught me everything I needed to learn in the office. How to answer phones. She told me to take a typing class. I did everything possible because the office was warm. And there's donuts. My mom worked in the back of that same factory where it was cold. And every now and then I'd give tours, because I've been giving tours my whole life. And I'd have to pass my mom, and she was so proud, and I felt a little guilty. But she was so proud because somebody had made it. I was 14 years old, and she thought I had made it. My mom had only gone to school to 6th grade, and my dad to 2nd grade. I had made it more than they had. It's all perspective. I could have just stopped there. Who's the guy from the club? Where's he at? I probably saw him at Studio 47 or something. This is my high school years. So work was going really well, but not school. Not school. School was like, I had no idea because my parents are not educated parents. We go to school to socialize, to get free lunch every now and then, but we didn't know how to get into high school. I didn't know any of that. As a matter of fact, I remember a time when we were driving into school, late probably, and I had my radio blasting to some rancheras. And my girlfriend's like, we were getting too close to the house, to the school, and she goes, lower it. Because it was embarrassing to have my Mexican music playing. So we would lower our music. Thank you for having an organization that highlights music. We're not going to lower our music anymore. We're not going to lower our music anymore. So, first day of my senior year, I get to school, and because my parents don't understand English, they had thrown away the letter that said I had gotten kicked out of school. They didn't understand it, garbage, whatever. I get there, my name's not on the roster of what classes I need to go to, and so I get called into the principal's office again, and he says, you're a bad influence. You're a year behind, and you can't be at this school. Imagine, this is a story I told Adobe executives from the best schools in the world, developing the best products, the best services in the world. And I'm telling him I'm from a grass shack in Mexico, and I got kicked out and went to a continuation school and have been given back to this industry for over 25 years. You're looking for a story of somebody who comes from someplace different? There you go. My dad also was struggling with cancer at the time. We all struggle with so many things. So I end up at that continuation school, and they asked me, why are you here? And I said, nothing. Because I'm a high school kid, and I'm sitting at a chair like this, not engaged. And it took somebody to ask me and be very, very persistent, why are you here? And finally I said, my dad is dying of cancer. I have to work. My mom's not doing well. The kids at that continuation high school were not bad kids. I know, I've been there. They were kids that were going through homelessness. They were kids that were being abused. They were kids that had parents in prison. There were kids that had no nice words said to them ever, ever. Our kids need nice words, especially now. Our kids need nice words. The ratio of good needs to outweigh the bad. It matters. Because now when people ask me, how did you end up at a place like that doing this in a foundation? I'm like, honestly, people pumped me up. People gave me good words. They said, oh, you answer the phones very well, or whatever it was. It doesn't matter how small that good word was. It mattered to me, to my age group. So as our kids start to compete for jobs out there, guess what? They're competing next to the person that's been pumped up their whole lives. And here we are like, oh, we just got a graduation cap and that's all we got. No. We need more good words. That matters. So that counselor, my second believer, who I also can't remember his face, because it could be anybody who gave me those good words, changed my life. And he gave me a hope plan, HOPE, you saw that word earlier, hope plan, which means very specifics. You need this, you need that, you need this, you need that. And I did this and that and this and that. Our kids, our first generation kids need this, that. written out on a piece of paper, so they just follow it because they've never done it before. They are the first. They don't know this, but they are the cycle breakers. They're not imposters. They are cycle breakers, and they need to change that narrative in their head. They're not imposters. I hate that word. They're cycle breakers. They are going to change it for the rest of the generations that follow them and make all of those loved ones proud. They are the cycle breakers. I did graduate on time. I went back to that high school. It was kind of fun walking in front of that principal, too. With that high hair. But now what, right? I had my hope plan. I was working at that company. I had been there a couple of years. I needed more help. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I ended up dabbling here and there in college classes, really without a direction again. I needed another hope plan. That's what I needed, but I went to go work. And before I knew it, I needed a part-time job that just paid me $15 an hour, to tell you the truth. And so I went to one of these agencies that give you jobs, and they said, here's a $15 an hour job. And I thought I was going to be working at a sand company like Arena. I'm like, I guess I'm in the arena business, the sand business. Arena's like, material. Because we just do what we do. If Ed asks me to speak, I'll speak. We just have to pivot, adapt. That's how we know what to do. We are hustlers, right? It turned out to be a sound company, the largest sound company in the world. Imagine your computers without sound. I didn't know what I was doing, but I needed work. And if there's ever any industry that changes constantly, is the tech industry. All of these pictures you see up here are developed by AI. I don't know anything about AI except I just text to image it, and all of a sudden it comes up. Adobe has amazing products. That's what I know. We need to adapt. Whether we like it or not, it's here. So I went to go work at that sound company, and I realized that people were getting promoted and more money than me. And I said, what are they doing? Right? So this picture is of a little girl in the cotton field. Remember, my parents picked cotton. That is the obstacle. Now what? I had to get a degree. I also had to stop working for a little bit, and I had 6 months worth of savings. And so 6 months is what my plan was. And I got a degree from the University of Phoenix, a working professional college, university. That's it, check mark, never had to talk about it again. Sometimes we just need check marks. So we can go from this to that. Our kids need to know, no matter what their lives are, they can go from this to that. They need people, they need us to show up and show them our faces and tell them our stories. Storytelling is an ancient teaching tool. We need to bring it back to schools. We need to tell it raw. These kids don't need sugarcoating. They need to know different stories of different blueprints. If you know of anybody, let me know. Write that book. They need us. They need to know that they could go from this to that. So, as I'm talking about this, just know this is a picture of an EKG, those heart monitors, the heart, anyways, AI developed. It goes like this. The EKG machines, what is it when it goes up and down? It means you're alive. That is life. We are alive. As long as it goes up and down and down, up and down and down, and whether we're down right now, just know we got to get up. Our kids are asking us to get up. My daughter also told me last week, she says, we can't keep going. We're already sad, Ma. If we see you sad, we're going to get sadder. It's time to pick ourselves up and Move on. Let's do something about it. They need to see that we're going to do something about it. Just like we saw our ancestors, just like our family who took risk and did whatever they had to, we gotta keep going because we are living. As long as we are living, we have an opportunity, right? This is me. Not so long after I came to the United States. Imagine you. Imagine you as a little child. What would you tell this kid? Would you tell her she's an imposter? What would you tell your little self of what you're going to do in the future? Think about that and spread those good words like confetti, because little girls and little boys need us. They need us now more than ever. 20-something million Latino kids out there. Half of them are poor and underserved. They need to know that they can go work at these companies. We need to show up. We need to storytell. We need to be, when the undocumented document, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. We need more people documenting. This is creativity. How I wrote this got my mind going. I also had an artist design the cover. That little girl has butterfly wings. They are broken. She's not hiding her brokenness. I remember when I started speaking, I spoke about my story to my daughter who was doing theater. I've always admired people on stage. I should go on stage. I always admired people on a stage. And she said, "Mom, is this a sad story? Because you're making me sad." And I said, "No, mija." She goes, "Mom, then speak about it like you're an overcomer. Then speak about it as you're an overcomer." She was 16 years old. We need to listen to our kids. Wise beyond her years. My other daughter heard me practicing in the garage, and she says, "You don't sound like Mom." And I said, I have to be genuine. I have to be genuine. So I'm running around because that's what genuine people do. Okay. So I started the foundation after that. I started posting on LinkedIn. Those LinkedIn posts turned into a book. Those books are given away to whoever wants them. We give them away for free through book fairies, through book fairy corporations. There's millions of kids. I've only got thousands. We need millions. Let's figure this out. We must complete, not compete. And what I loved about this conference was I heard a lot of nonprofit talk. You know, we're all collaborating. Thank you for having all of us. We need to complete, not compete. Yes. All right. Okay. We are warriors. You can hear it in me, right? I got that in my blood. You have that in your blood. I need all of us to say these 4 words together loud, like if you're telling a little kid that you need them to be better, to be bigger, that they can. Hope, help, hustle, heart. Hope, help, hustle, heart. Thank you so much. My name is Martha. I'm a proud Mexican immigrant. I started with nothing. And now I know that every single thing that happened to me that I used to think was shameful is not shameful at all. It was actually what got me here today. And it was all interconnected. This was part of my story. I just didn't know it yet. Your broken is part of your story also. Let's not be ashamed of it, because our kids need to hear that even though we're a little broken, we're going to be all right. We're going to be all right.
Yes,
Thank
we
you
are.
so much.
Thank you. Martha Niño, everyone. Martha Niño. I have a big knot in my throat right now, but I am going to get through this part, because what I would like to do right now, let's hear it for all of our panelists, all of our guests. Thank you, Martha Niño. To end on this note was beautiful and more than I could ever expect. And what I'd like to do right now, before we bring up Good Shield Aguilar and Mignon Heli for some music, and we have snacks for you and networking, and you can relax. What I would love to do, those of you that are here right now, join us on stage, please, for a group photo. So come on, Come on, all of you. I'd love to see all of your faces. This is the ending that I was dreaming of 14 years ago. So thank you for making this happen. Thank you.